Most people don't know, but the US economy is already in a recession. The US economy is clearly slowing down, and it seems like by the end of this year, it is going to experience a recession. But this recession is going to be very different from all previous recessions. Usually, when there is a recession, there is a slowdown in demand and prices to start falling down. However, in this case, it is going to be extremely differently. Yes, the economy on one side is slowing down, but prices will continue rising, and that's what we call a stagflation, and that's what the US economy is about to face. It is already facing that. Slowing down the demand is actually good on one side. Creating artificial recession on one side is extremely good when prices are getting out of control. And that's what the Federal Reserve did back in 2022. If you look at the interest rates, you see that they're higher than they have been in the last 20 years. They have increased the interest rates to 5.5% in 2022 when inflation got out of control. And right now, the Fed is on a path to lower interest rates to as low as 2%. Because since 2008 financial crisis, the US economy got hooked on very low, ultra low interest rates. And that means that if we want real economic growth, we have to lower down interest rates to as low as 2%. But we cannot possibly do this because the United States started a war against Iran. And some people think that this war is going to be over. But it's very easy to start a war, but it's very difficult to end the war because there is going to be a clear winner in this war. And unless there is a clear winner, this war is not going to end. On one side, Iran cannot possibly back off because they have been attacked and they have every reason or every right to fight back. On the other side, the United States cannot possibly back up unless Iran is going to become a pro-American country, since the United States needs Iran in order to contain China and Russia. And that means that there is not going to be peace anytime soon. And that war in Iran is actually causing this inflation. So even though that the Federal Reserve has been slowing down the US economy over the last couple of years to bring down inflation, now we have a completely different crisis that has nothing to do with the Federal Reserve, which puts the Federal Reserve in this dilemma. On one side, they can lower interest rates. On the other side, there is artificial inflation in the economy. You see, there are two types of inflation that we can possibly have. One is demand-driven inflation. This is inflation when people in the economy are spending money. So when everybody is spending too much money, prices are increasing. Imagine you're running a coffee shop and suddenly there are a lot of people buying your coffee. What you will start doing is that you'll start raising your prices because you want to maximize your profits. But people still come and buy your coffee, so you raise your prices slightly more. And that's what we call demand-driven inflation. Everybody is interested in the economy to make as much money as possible, so everybody will keep increasing their prices. But they won't be raising their prices if people stop buying. That's why it is in their own interest to stabilize their prices to such a point where they will maximize their profits. And that's why we had inflation to rise as high as 10% back in 2022. Why? Because the government has thrown so much money into the economy. All these stimulus checks that were given to the average Americans were actually spent on Amazon, were spent on Starbucks, were spent basically in everything in the economy that caused so much inflation. So the Fed had to artificially restrain that and contain the economy from preventing inflation to get entirely out of control. But this inflation we have today is completely different because it is supply-driven inflation. And that means that prices are increasing not because people are spending too much money, but because this effective, efficient supply chain that we have is being disrupted. The cost of this supply chain is rising. Why? Because the most important resource, its price have increased significantly from about $50 to as high as $120 at its peak. Yes, there are fluctuations because one day Trump starts the war, so the prices rise. The other day, Donald Trump is like, we're about to sign a peace deal. Then 2 weeks later, again, we have a war and so on and so forth. But this war is not going to be over anytime soon because this war is extremely complicated. And this war is going to set the rules for the new world order, which is why you understand that unless there is going to be a clear winner in this war who is going to set the new rules, the war will not be over, which means that oil prices will continue operating at around $100. And this is in the best case scenario. They can get to as high as $150 if this is going to continue for a few more months. What that is doing is that is increasing prices across the economy. First of all, we saw gasoline prices rise. When you want to fill your car with gas and you're in a gas station, the gas station has no other choice but to raise prices. So you're instantly feeling the impact of the Iran war. Or maybe the electricity bill is rising. Why? Because most of the electricity today is being generated using oil and gas. Without that, or if the price of that rises, your electricity bill on the other side is going to rise. What is that? That is inflation. And now the question is, what do you think the Federal Reserve in this case is supposed to do? They cannot possibly lower down interest rates. But if that continues for a few weeks, suddenly food prices are going to rise. But oil prices are already at about $100 for more than 2 months. Now here's the question, how is that even impacting food prices? Most of the food today is grown using fertilizers, and fertilizers are usually made from natural gas. And if the price of natural gas rises, the price of food rises. And most of the food all across the globe is also grown all across the globe. So there is an effective, efficient supply chain that delivers those bananas from one part of the world right to your doorstep, or right to the Walmart that's beside your house, or right to Tesco. So if the price of shipping is going to rise, you can easily see the logic how that is going to increase the price of food. Because if you look at the US, yes, the United States is an agricultural powerhouse, but it cannot possibly produce everything. And a lot of these things are much more efficient to produce on the other side of the world. That's why you see food prices are rising, plastic prices are rising. And if oil prices remain high for a few months, suddenly that is going to impact the manufacturing side of the economy. That is construction, steel, cement. Look at the house. What do you need in order to build a house? Aluminium, cement, and other materials. But in order to get these materials, you need a factory to produce them. The problem with these factories is that they're very energy intensive. You cannot possibly replace the factory that produces steel or aluminium with renewable energy. That energy is simply not sufficient for this factory to operate. That's why if the price of oil is going to rise, the price of cement is going to rise. And this is just one example. All the heavy manufacturing can only be possible with oil and gas. Maybe sometime in the future we are going to move into renewable energy, but that is not the case now, and that's not the case in the next 5 to 10 years, which is why oil prices will remain high for the entire year, which means that there is going to be massive inflation. Now, inflation in March has been about 3.3%. In April, probably that number is also going to be around 3.3%. And if this trajectory is going to last for the entire year, then we're looking at the interest rate or inflation rate at about 3.5% or maybe 4%. Here's the question, will the GDP grow by this much? Of course not. It's not even going to grow close to that. How is that slowing down the demand? You see, when the cost of everything is rising, that means that people can afford a lot less things. If I'm making $100,000 and I could buy a certain amount of goods for $100, now the prices have risen. Naturally, with this $100,000, I can buy a lot less things, which means that there is less spending. If there is less spending, there is less GDP growth. If there is less GDP growth, it means that it's a recession. That's basically how we measure how fast the economy is growing. But it also means that businesses are shrinking. If you're a business, for example, in this case, you're faced with two options. Let's say you're making very slim margins, which most businesses make, and like they are doing some online business. The cost has risen. Either you're going to raise your prices to continue your business, and if you do that, you're going to lose some of your clients, if not most of your clients. But if you don't do that, your margins are going to shrink and you're going to make a lot less money, which means that you're going to spend a lot less money. So in both cases, you are slowing down. And when business becomes unprofitable in this case, investments are going to dry up. So investors will spend a lot less money in this kind of businesses. So naturally, economy overall is going to slow down. So if you look at the GDP growth, last year it was 2.9%. or in 2024, it was 2.9%. In 2025, that was 2.1%. So you can clearly see that the economy was already slowing down. So what happens throughout 2026 is that we will still have higher cost of capital. The Federal Reserve not in a position to lower down interest rates, which they're supposed to do. Naturally, that was the cycle. We raise interest rates in 2022, we bring down inflation, we have contained the demand, we lower down interest rates, and we have another cycle. But now there is a war. How can we possibly have another cycle? And now if that cycle is not happening and we keep the rates high, well, we have pushed the demand so low, what happens now? That is what we call a path to a recession. Even the new chairman of the Fed, what exactly is going to do? Do you think just because Trump asked him to lower interest rates, he will do so? Let's say that he's going to do that. What happens next? Inflation will get out of control. Inflation rise to 4%, 4.5%, maybe 5%. And that is going to put a lot of pressure on the US government because the government has to refinance almost $40 trillion worth of debt. And to do that, you need to offer to investors an interest rate that is higher than inflation. So if inflation will get out of control because of the Fed's decision, it will put even more pressure on the government of the United States. So if you take the higher cost of capital plus the higher cost of energy, then there is going to be a prolonged recession. Even before the war started, the prediction or the projection for the GDP was about 2.1% in the best case scenario. It might have been about 2% or maybe 1.8%. Now, if oil prices remain at around $100 or more, there is a probability that they will get to $150 by the end of the year. Then the GDP growth will be about 0 to 1%. That is not a recession, to be honest, because what is a recession? 2 negative GDP growth. And they should be consecutive. So the GDP growth should be below 0. But here's the situation we have. So the GDP grows, let's say, by 0.5% this year, but then inflation is going to be 3.5 to 4% because of this war. That is what we call a stagflation. So even though that on paper this is not inflation, the quality of life for the average person is going to get a lot worse. Because yes, your income is growing by 0.5%, but prices are growing by 3.5%. Yes, on paper that's not a recession, but that seems way worse than a recession because you will be getting poorer and poorer each year. Because inflation is significantly higher than growth. Here's the question: how inflation is going to impact stock prices? If you look at the last year, every single crisis has pushed the stock market to dip for a very short period of time. But other than that, the stock market has been doing quite well. Why? Shouldn't a recession slow down the stock market? Yes, on paper that is true. But again, think about that. This recession is more like a stagflation, where there is a very bare minimum GDP growth, but there is very high inflation. And as long as there is inflation, that is 3%, 3.5%, what do you think that is doing to the prices? Prices are rising. And if you're a company and you're listed in the stock market, what happens to your revenues and your profits on paper? If you look at their balance sheet, suddenly you see that the revenue has grown, even if they are selling the exact same amount of goods that they did last year. Why? Because they had to increase their prices simply because we have something that we call inflation. And as long as the revenue are going to grow on paper, as long as their profits are going to grow, even if it's due to inflation, their stock prices are going to rise. On the other side, there is so much wealth in the world. What do you think investors are going to do with that money? Will they just sell all of their investments? Well, of course not. Sometimes they do when there is some kind of a market crash, when a war starts, but most of that money quickly will go back to the stock market. And that's why we see that stock prices are continuing rising, which means that is dividing the society into two categories. On one side, you have the middle class people who will suffer as a result of this crisis because their incomes are not growing as fast as inflation. On the other side, we have investors who are consistently investing in the stock market and their investments are rising way faster than inflation. So if you want to know what are the best assets you should be buying right now in order to be in the second group so that no matter what happens throughout this year and next year, you will end up making a lot of money, then join the Investing Academy. The link is in the description of this video.